In the UK, earnings remain in focus as British private equity firm 3i saw its stock tumble 7.4% after reporting its first half results, while British fashion brand Burberry rose 8.5% after reporting strong first half earnings despite Hong Kong unrest. Well, let's bring in Juliana now to update us on the markets today. Hello, Juliana. Good afternoon. Well, we saw the FTSE 100 slipping by 0.2% after opening this morning, as a number of the biggest firms on the index went ex-dividend. Those firms include Sainsbury's, Shell, and drug maker GSK. And of course, what exactly do you think the markets are like today at intraday?
Well, Chimi, good afternoon. You're right. Those ex-dividends at the start of early trading, it wiped about 16 points off the FTSE 100, really putting it in reverse gear at the start of trading day. To be honest, at intraday, it hasn't really picked up. The FTSE All-Share is down 0.34%. The FTSE 100 is down 0.45%. And the FTSE 250 slightly up at 0.06%. In currencies, the British pound is slightly up on the US dollar by 0.05%, up on the euro by 0.13% and down on the Japanese yen by 0.11%.
On the data front, we saw the UK retail sales are falling in October. Is this also a concern for the markets?
Well, absolutely. There's no denying that as soon as these retail sales figures were released, the FTSE 100 dropped some points. And also sterling. Sterling dipped slightly against the dollar. And that's because last month in October, there were less goods sold in UK high streets. This is particularly worrying. Of course, we're coming into a very, very busy period, a period where the UK economy is really going to be relying upon its consumers. And that's, of course, Christmas. Also, as well, Halloween. October the 31st. But a few years ago, it wasn't really a big deal in the UK, but over the past couple of years, it's really picked up speed. And so a lot of economists did actually predict that with the boom in, buying for Halloween, that may rescue the numbers. And considering it hasn't, of course, is particularly worrying. It fell by 0.1%, those retail sales in October. It was stagnant in September. In the 3 months to October, retail sales have grown by 0.2%, but that's still the lowest growth that we've seen in well over a year. So economists are predicting that it will be a very long, cold winter in the UK. And of course, we got that employment data recently showing that 58,000 people fell into unemployment. And of course, if you're not employed, you're very unlikely to be spending in the high street.
Well, Juliana, before I let you go, another interesting one that caught my attention this morning. Yesterday we had a conversation on that, on having more women on the board. Now, today, a group, Fansat Society, which lobbies for gender equality, is calling for a parliamentary bill that will give women the power to ask their employer what a specific male colleague in their workplace is earning if they suspect they are being discriminated against in terms of pay. Now, do you see this legislation ever being considered if it comes on board?
Well, yes, it is interesting. Potentially is what I can say. The Fawcett Society, they're a women's advocates group. And as soon as they release this report, you've got a lot of big businesses, including the director of Business Institutes, coming out saying that we've got to be very careful with this data. But, in the UK, there are still several women that don't think they're being paid enough for doing exactly the same. And I must say, in many cases, even more than their male counterparts, and they're paid much less than them. So what the Fawcett Society are trying to urge the government to introduce is this right to know, and this right to know amendment will literally just will allow them to ask their employers, what exactly is Jack or David or John being paid? But there are some concerns that this method could be abused. But in the UK, this has become a really hot topic. A couple of years ago, we had a big outcry because of the BBC. The BBC network, their gender pay gap really revealed just shocking amounts of differences between what their very well-known female staff were paid and their very well-known male staff were paid. And that's what's really put put this into the headlines. And most recently as well, another one of the BBC staff, a lady named Samira Ahmed, she took the BBC to court because she was paid 3 times less than a popular male figure on the network who was doing the same job as her. So there seems to be a long way to go, but it's staying at the top of headline news because, of course, you know, equal pay is justice, not just in the UK, but across the world.
It will really be interesting to know how this legislation will fly. Thank you, and enjoy the rest of the day, Juliana.
Thank you, Chime.